Hello, Miss LeBreton. I'm here to ask you a couple of questions about your opinions on T classes.
Okay.
So, the two questions are what are your pros and cons on T classes, and what expectations do you have for your next master teacher?
Wow. Huge questions. And there's a lot to say about both of those. So, shall I begin with the first one, pros and cons of T classes, and then we'll go to the next?
Yes, ma'am.
The advantages to a T class is that you are able to singularly focus on the end of course remediation. However, a lot of the different aspects of the remediation should really be happening in all classes, not just in a T class. The I can understand the intent to put them all together so they can focus on just the basics. However, they're missing out on a lot of the level that they should have been on. So the cons would be with just focusing on the test, they're missing out on what they should have been doing all along, the English 3 level for me. So I would suggest that double blocking for students who haven't passed would have been a much more beneficial strategy than pulling them out and only focusing on English during a particular T class. The one huge disadvantage of a T class is the fact that you wind up having limitations without being able to scaffold students. So we no longer have strong students to help small groups and partner with weak students because all of the students are weak. So when you remove all students that are have huge challenges into one class, you've also removed their role models, the peers they look up to and that they compete with academically. So you have the whole class being at this level and they begin to think it's okay. It's okay to be failing the EOC. It's accepted and I've witnessed that personally. But another huge disadvantage is behavior. So many of the students that are in the class, they need someone to make them feel like they're worthy. And they demand a lot of attention, which they deserve. But when you have a class of 25, 26, 28, and all of them need strong individual attention, it's hard to get to all of them as quickly as they need it. And there's a theory that was studied after World War II in Germany. The theorist's name was Nicole Neumann, and Miss Neumann looked at what's called the dominant culture. How could a minority culture dominate the thoughts and minds of a group of people that didn't agree with them? Well, it was researched that if you have a very loud minority culture, that dominant characteristic can overcome and override the majority of the students. So when you have a group of very quiet students who are failing because they are struggling either with ESL or they just are very quiet and they needed some remediation in other areas, it's hard to get to them because of the loud, dominant culture that are in there because of behavior modification problems. And there are some students that are extremely brilliant and they really didn't need the T classes. They just failed because of behavior. So those are the type of students that would have been better in a classroom where they had competition of people that don't exactly respect or look up to them because of the behavior they're exhibiting in one of these kind of classes. So, with that said, why don't we move on to your next question? You want to ask me that again?
Yes, of
Okay.
course. What expectations do you have for your next master teacher?
Okay. A master teacher can make such a huge difference in a school culture. And one of the things that I can see that we really strongly need here is help with planning. I was used to having planning that was both vertically aligned, where you have planning within the same level, so all sophomore, junior, senior teachers teaching the same TEKS at the same time. However, there's a need for vertical alignment as well. I asked some students whether or not they've read certain books or they've experienced certain plays. Some will say yes, some will say no. There are some students that have told me that they've read, for instance, they'd already experienced The Crucible, which is typically American literature and taught at the junior level. But yet, most of them had not read To Kill a Mockingbird or Of Mice and Men, which traditionally and typically is looked at as a sophomore piece across the board. Some of them told me they hadn't even read things like Romeo and Juliet, which is typically considered a freshman level piece. So vertical alignment with having certain selections and certain novels and certain pieces at every grade level is as important as the horizontal part, the horizontal level. And I would love for a master teacher to help organize that. Plus, sometimes it's just being a new teacher. There were things about gradebook that I didn't understand at the beginning. It took me 6 weeks to get a key, even though I kept asking to get a key for my door. There's another teacher that it took her months to get a badge because of paperwork. So I never knew who to ask. You don't know who to go to. And master teachers are really important to help any teacher navigate their way around the systems of a large school such as Lancaster High School. It's not that any one thing was wrong, it's just where do you go, who do you ask, what do you do. I would also like to see a master teacher bring the department together more. I felt like a real outsider this year because I had 5 T classes and I really didn't have anyone to plan with. So because I didn't have a planning committee group, there was no one really that taught what I was teaching. I didn't really feel like I fit in anywhere. So for me, even if it's just a couple of get-togethers once a semester, it might have made it easier for me to get to know the teachers, because I really haven't been able to get to know any of the teachers on the hallway except to just small talk. There hasn't been any connection, so I would have enjoyed that. So I think that it was due to the special circumstances we had this year, the very sad, unfortunate circumstances, that a lot of that probably didn't occur. But I would like to see it be a strong part of next year. And that's what I'd like to see in my master teacher.
Well, thank you, Ms. Burton, for taking time from your class to give us your opinion on this very important topic.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time. Hello, Ms. Jania Smith. I've come here to your classroom to ask you about a couple of questions, well, actually a question on your opinions about your expectations for your next master teacher.
Okay. My expectations for my next master teacher are, one, hopefully that we are able to get a lot of resources that will help us in addressing student academic needs, like their reading needs. Like, so we had writing folders, but I love like a reading folder and a writing folder with strategies in that to address those needs or those areas for students who are struggling. So of course, more resources, access to kind of walk through Lead Forward. I kind of learned about Lead Forward from a principal, but I would like for my master teacher to kind of know to tell us like what links will help us with those, understanding those standards better. Also for my master teacher, I would like for us to kind of have more meetings of the minds where we come together and kind of show, you know, things that we're working on in class and what works and working together. We had it this year, but of course that's still an expectation that the math teacher is able to hold those meetings and we come together for cluster and kind of share and work together, because at the end of the day we all have pieces that can come together and make this work. My last expectations for my master teacher is that she actually comes into the classroom and kind of looks out for the new teachers more, so that it's kind of like not like you just come in knowing what you know. Making sure that new teachers are well equipped to handle the standards. While I could catch on, I still didn't feel like I knew the standards at the end of the day. I kind of had to work with that a little bit. So thank you, but for my master teacher expectations, they're just be the master teacher. Just run it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Taylor, for taking time out of your class.
Ready? Okay, so the pros and cons of T classes. The pros, I would say, would be that you can do on-the-spot remediation and the class sizes are generally smaller. The cons of the T classes are you are generally stuck with your common behavioral issues or students who kind of struggle together. So grouping them all together kind of makes it challenging, because that's where a lot of your apathy comes into play. My expectations for my next master teacher will be somebody that is knowledgeable and hands-on, and somebody that would actually don't mind coming into the classroom and helping teachers and providing resources that will actually benefit the students and not just the master teacher.